It is Monday. Hope everyone is having a good one. Today we're going to talk about a couple of things. One of them is going to be value, and the other one is going to be probably temperatures and performance. So here's the thing about the Waifu 3080. I know a lot of people keep commenting on that video. Go check it out if you haven't already. But the white Waifu 3080, it just ran too hot. So we're going to show you right here a quick little example. Now the 3080, it was maxing at about 250 frames per second, but the problem is the average was under 200 because the temperatures were getting so hot. It was thermally throttling. And everybody's like, oh, mine runs at 80C. I don't really care. It's luck of the draw. Some of them run 80, some of them run 88, but it's in between those numbers, and you're still going to have some thermal throttling eventually. Now, one of the problems was the VRAM gets extremely hot. Your VRAM temperatures are usually about 15 degrees to 20 degrees more than your core temp, and you don't want to run your VRAM at 100. Ask people who mine and who have like cards running non-stop, they'll burn that VRAM up if you hit temps like that. So a lot of them have to mitigate it by underclocking the core, because the core eventually transfers heat to the VRAM because it's sharing the same surface as the cooler. Anyways, value, I paid like close to 800 bucks for that 3080. You can catch it on sale with some rebates and get it down a little bit less. Now, at face value, we have a 6700X TOC in here. You would say, oh, well, $534, that's not a good value. You're right, it's not a good value. But I paid $350 for this, which is a great value, and I'll tell you why. We're gonna run a benchmark live and show you why it's a good value. So, if you look, we're hitting an FPS average of 211. Now, that is really good. The minimums are 210, max is 212. It's extremely stable. And what's even better, look at those temperatures, 50C. Okay, we're gonna hit a max of around 54 to 57C under full load. Now, that is actually really good in this case, and I'll tell you why as well. We have a big honking heatsink over it, so it's not even breathing that well, okay? There's not a lot of air moving out of here, so it's fully heat soaked. Now granted, yes, I have the side panel off, but that's really not making a big deal. How it's able to obtain these temperatures is right here. These fans are pretty large. The fans on the Waifu 3080 were very small. They were probably the smallest fans I've ever seen on a GPU. For that being a 3080 with that small of fans, that's just not gonna cut it. So anyways, what I would really recommend to people is really look at reviews beforehand and kind of like see what the temperatures are doing, and kind of like, you know, base your decision not just on looks, but on performance and bang for the buck and all of that. Now, I'm going to show you the screenshot here of our benchmark and compare it to the 3080. Now you see we hit a max temperature of 57C. We did an average of 209 frames per second, and we did it at half the price. So like, look, max temp 88, FPS 155 was the low. Look, the low here, come on now, 209. So another thing that's important is your monitor. Okay, if you're running a 144 hertz monitor and your game is getting 200 frames per second, that doesn't matter. You're not gonna see that difference 0% of the time. Problem is, your monitor is 144 hertz. It's only going to display 144 frames per second. So if you want to max out your quality settings and get it to look as good as you want and still keep those frames per second, you should really base your graphics card decision around that and your monitor. So if you buy a 3090 and you've got a 1080p 120 hertz monitor, you're a clown. You really are. You should really invest in a better monitor, because you're not taking advantage of being able to see the frames per second that you just paid all that money for. And then you got heat. Everything else is getting heat soaked. You could have had the same visual representation for half the money. Now, We are talking about an ultra wide in this instance, and it is a 1440 240 hertz. So I do want a better graphics card. This is not my personal choice right here. We're just talking about value today. If I had my personal choice, I would be running a brand new 7900 XT, but those aren't out yet, and that's kind of what we're holding out for, because in my opinion, there's going to be your value. Now back to price, how I got this for 350 bucks. Microcenter had it on sale for like $439-ish. Well, if you know Microcenter, they will price match. So while I was in the store, I shopped everyone around the internet until I found Newegg had it for $369. Now there's a $20 mail-in rebate on top of that. So when I got to the register, they price matched the Newegg for $369, sorry. And then they printed me out a $20 rebate. So I did get $20 more back off of this that I'm gonna mail in. It'll take a couple weeks to get it back, but that's okay. Well, now I gave you a quick well, maybe not quick, but I gave you a good lesson on value. So you could get a 3070 that'll actually do these same numbers. If you're just a hardcore NVIDIA fan. So if you look, this was a 3070 and it did a max temp of 73. Now it's a lot hotter. But you know, there are some advantages to having NVIDIA. You do have ray tracing and so on, but that's really not all it's cracked up to be. So 208 average frames per second, had a score of 1256, or yeah, 12,516. But if you look here, this 6700 XT actually did better than the 3070 on the benchmark. And it did better on the temps, and it did better on pretty much everything. So why would you pay 500 to 600 bucks for a 3070 when you could pay 350 and get the same performance? Ask yourself that. Is it because you're just a hardcore NVIDIA fan and you want that NVIDIA name attached to it? Or do you go for looks first and performance second? Maybe. And if that's you, that's totally fine. I just would really hope that people would kind of take these things into consideration and say, hey, do I really need the looks or do I really need the performance? Or could I maybe find somewhere in between the two? There are other options for 6700 that look a little bit cooler, still around 400 bucks, still a lot less than a 3070. So with that in mind, we're going to show you our next value. This is a 12700K, right here, somewhere. 12700K Z690 motherboard right here. They run about 225 to 250. The CPU runs about 369 to 400. Would you believe it if I told you I got both the motherboard and the CPU for 350 bucks? You probably would think I'm playing, but I'm not. I got the motherboard for free. It cost me a penny, literally a penny. There's a hidden microcenter deal where if you tell them about it, they'll give it to you. You just walk in and say, I want to buy this CPU and I want that motherboard for free with the Black Friday promo that I heard about on CPPC Tech. They'll hook you up. The RAM, 88 bucks, and you see the original price was $184. How I did that is I went to Newegg, I typed in the model number, bada bing, bada boom, they price matched it for 88 bucks, and I got it that day, walked away with it that day. Now here is the contact frame cooler that Gamers Nexus and a couple other my peoples have recommended. It's a great way to get better contact on the die because it is wide. It does kind of not give it the best cooling potential, so you'll have a hot spot on there. This prevents that. It squishes the CPU down perfectly flat. All right, out of breath, out of time. Stay tuned for the next one. I'm probably not going to edit this. I don't think I have the time or the patience for editing anymore. I might just do a little thumbnail or add something if I can, but you know, hey, if anybody wants to edit and do some cool things, holler at me. I have some opportunities for you. Well, on to the next one. Hope everyone has a good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I'm out.